Welcome to Expedition Self with Sam Parado, a lifelong learner and entrepreneur. Sam is the creator of the growth-producing worlds of Expedition Self, where seekers hang out so they can live a conscious life of love and personal fulfillment. As she shares 4 decades of studying, guiding, and teaching, you'll learn how to go inside and build an empowered relationship with the self. Ignite your self-development process with Sam.
Hello. You've reached Growth Central tonight. I'm Sam Parado, and I'm your host this evening. And actually, I'm the host most evenings. Anyway, tonight we're going to be talking about pivotal moments, which are the unseen openings to engage your power and your creative attention. The title's a little misleading because it's really about tapping into how do I say this? It's like you have this regular norm that you're interacting with all the time with the people in your life. And tonight's show is about how to crack into that normalcy and actually drop in and see that those are the moments when you can make a relationship be more and open up to more emotional intimacy and actually produce more connectivity between you and that person. So anyway, we're going to be getting into that as we go. But I want to welcome you to our hour-long variety show about growth work. And, it's a fun thing to kind of set up an evening and feel like I'm creating a kind of an overall experience. And so even though you might be used to watching something for 10 minutes and then going and doing something else, what we do when we try to create this show is give you a bunch of different angles on growth work, so that even if one subject doesn't quite land for you, that there's still some other aspect of the show that will connect for you. So our 2 questions we like to start every show with. Ready? Here we go. What are you working on within yourself right now? And since I last saw you and you last saw me, what has been playing out in your life? Right? So this is this opportunity to just take this time to say, I'm going to go inside. I'm going to let my unconscious talk to me. I'm going to pay attention to what I'm really feeling, and I'm not going to use anything else to distract myself from this moment and me. So what I wanted to do tonight for what I've been working on is I wanted to read you a poem that I've written as part of my inner work. And, I'm a huge advocate for the idea that your growth matters, right? And in the idea that it matters, the way to make contact with it is through anything that is what you would call creative. And so I started writing poetry about a year ago, and I thought, I'll share this with you tonight. So, okay, this is a poem called Be a Paisley. Been told we come in all shapes and sizes, doesn't come close to it. To uncover and reveal the mismatched pattern of the self, you'll see it resembles more of a runaway train careening off the track and into the side of a mountain, and then reconstructed to be runnable. Certainly not the smooth lines of a symmetrically circular form. Be a Paisley. Shout it out. Stuff it in. Gently observe its detail. Sneak it back out. And hopefully no one will notice. Reinvigorate and experiment with it in the silliest or most unpredictable of ways. And then be willing to discover it didn't mean as much as you thought it did. Can't describe this as a sleek design. Be a Paisley. Only long after this dance of exhumation of the self, does it earn its place on your intriguing artistic design. Won't come by it easily or in record time. But you will know you are a Paisley person when you reek with character. And integrity is non-negotiable, and you cling to the disarray of the journey rather than the illusion of splendor at the end game. Resist simply inhabiting the born you. Instead, wear it. Use it until every edge melts into oblivion, until you are so exhausted but relieved, knowing an original was forged and sculpted and honored forever as the essence of you. Okay, well, I like that poem. When I read it, I get really re-inspired myself. The whole idea, right, of this creative moments is to put ourselves in it and invite like the whole experience. So in those two questions, what's actually been happening for you, and where are you in yourself? This is a great time to call in, and I'm gonna see if I can remember the number. It's 202-570-7057, and I'm thinking I'm gonna get a notice if it doesn't isn't the right phone number. All right, so if we could go to the slide, I think it's 2 slides in is where we're at. One more after that. The next slide after that. There we go. You know, I'm on social media a lot, and I feel like part of this show is to help you make contact and have access to other resources. And I love Dr. Elizabeth Fedrick. She put some really, really great stuff in. Could you slide to the next slide? It's a lot of relationship work. I thought it went tonight with what we were talking about. And she draws a lot of contrast. And I think it's so helpful when we're trying to work on our lives, is to understand this is what it can look like and this is what you might have. And it helps to put it in words and define it. And so I have found it to be spot on with everything that I've encountered in my own work and my own life. And if you could slide to the next one, this is another example of her work. Right? Gentle reminder of how emotionally safe people show up in relationships. Yeah, that's big. So anyway, I'd love it if you follow her and find her helpful for sure. I follow her on Instagram, so but I'm sure you can find her in other places. So okay, I also want to note. On another note, I want to remind you that we provide show resources that you're going to want to check out. So we have coloring pages, and also oftentimes we'll do a summary of something that was said in a more visual way. So it's at expeditionself.com/TV resources. And actually, if you'll slide back 3 slides, that's the visual. No, the other direction. There we go. There we go. Keep going. One more. There we go. If you'll show them that. This is an example of what you'll see on the page when you land there, of all of the things that you can actually get. And then if you could go to the other direction, back to the visual that says, my favorite quote, my favorite quote. And if you wonder what I'm looking at, it's because I'm watching the screen over here. I have value simply because I breathe. This is a great coloring page, and you can just print it off and have fun coloring it. And to me, it's the sentence that, gosh, every one of us need to be able to internalize, you know. Okay, so I'm going to use my little wand here. I don't know that we can hear it, but I'm going to just send us off into the next section here. So growth fundamentals. So each time we're here, you can show that on the screen, please, just big. And I'm going to talk about it for a second. Each time we're here, we pick a fundamental just to spend a little bit of time on. And these are fundamentals that if you work them and think about them and learn about them, then they help your growth process work for you. So this show, we're going to talk about avoid believing in your truths for too long. So here's the issue with truth. It becomes forever written in stone, right? And our psyches love to have truths, you know, something that's dependable and secure and validating. And it's especially special if we think we came up with it ourselves, or if we feel like it became known to us because of some unique experience that only we had. And so, you know, when I go through this, I feel this feeling inside of my head, and the tingles, they crawl around my temple and over my forehead and curl around my ears. You know, it's like, oh, that's a truth. That's a truth. It's like delight, right? And so that's why, you know, it becomes like a conclusion of, oh, that's why I don't like X or Y or Z. Right? There's this satisfying click when some reality in my life syncs up with a deeper understanding, and then I get to turn it into a new truth. I don't like mornings, or the reason I never eat dessert is, but here's the thing. When we latch onto a truth, many times it's more about how life goes. Like, don't talk to people about politics, or always make sure you say the right thing. See, truths, they slide into biases about everything, and they're super hard to unseat, and they turn into rigidity inside of our own beings. So if growth work is based on the need to turn the soil over and over again, looking for new information about ourselves and about life and about our hearts and how we function, while waiting for something that, new to emerge. This is why it's a fundamental, is because you have to be aware and beware of your truths that you've concluded, because they immediately stop the growth process. You want to be willing to hold on to them for a while, celebrate them, experiment with them, ponder and try to poke holes in them, look for examples in real life, right? I mean, this is the idea, is you take an idea in your mind, because you want to always give your mind something to do. And then you go through your life for 5 days and you pick up one of these truths that you've decided are real. And then you experiment with it in your interactions and as your day goes by, right? So then you want to release them after that so that something new can show itself. Like, maybe that's not true, or maybe it isn't the same truth, right? So notice, like, you could just take this challenge, right? Notice in the next 24 hours how many of your actions are based on a truth, perhaps one you formed long ago. You're not supposed to stay the same. And if you're to have that freedom that I always talk about, then you're going to want to examine the basis for the truths you hold on to. I think the last thing I would just say about this is that there's something that feels really great when we get a piece of self-information that feels true. And it feels like we're building confidence and stability and foundation. And so one of the things I've noticed with people that I've worked with, and even in my own process, is that you get these, and then you really want to hold on to them, because who wants to go back into that void or into the unknown or into the uncertainty of it all? And so we kind of, our part that wants to feel good about ourselves really takes it to the bank. So that's what this week's fundamental is about. Okie doke. I'm going to take a breath. All right, and I'm going to do this. All right, so we are now, you can share this slide just so everyone can see. We're in our core section, which is communication, ownership, relationship, and emotions. And great, thank you, Chris. And so we are, as human beings, I feel like these are the 4 pillars of how to create amazing relationship, both with ourselves and with other people. And, I talk about relationship with other people, but actually it's relationship with money, with nature, with ideology, with education. I mean, it's when you think about, what do I have to bring to anything I put myself into, communication, ownership, the quality of relationship and emotions are it, right? Okay, so ownership, that's our subject tonight, is not blame. It is not someone's fault. It's not somebody who's wrong and someone who's right. That is not what ownership is. All right, when we take ownership, we're saying, I participated. I was there. Oh yeah, that was me. I was present. I had some connection to it. A couple of years ago, my son's girlfriend was upset with me about the way our relationship was going, and that she said that I felt harsh and critical and insensitive. And I didn't think I was doing what she actually said, right? But in the realm of ownership, it gave me the opportunity to start by at least recognizing that I was there. There were interactions with me. I was speaking something, right? Now, again, in that example, I could say I was doing something, but even if I wasn't, just that I was in her circle in her sphere, that counted. So words were coming out of my mouth. And here's the piece: when you start to drop into ownership, you get honest with yourself. So I did have feelings at the time that were less than open hearted, right? I was struggling with how my relationship with my Alex was changing, and that her role in that, right? So that is what there was for me to own. And the more honest we can be with ourselves, the more our ownership takes flight, or it blossoms, or it has a life to it. So I could also own that even though I didn't think I did what she was actually describing, and this is important because a lot of times someone will say, I thought you were defensive, and the other person says, I wasn't defensive. I just didn't want to hear what you had to say, right? And so you're not looking for literal word exchange, right? So the way she described it wasn't necessarily what I thought I was doing. But what was important was to be able to say, where is what she's describing? Where is it connected to what could be a matchup? Right. This is, to me, the best skill you can ever develop, is the ability to find ownership inside of words that don't sound like what you think you did. Right. So that was a big piece of that. And so I find that it's often so uncomfortable for people to take ownership when their idea of themselves is to be loving or kind or generous or a good this or a good that, right? And so that then to take ownership when it doesn't go that way for someone else in the space, or even in the outcome that they're looking for, wow, it's like, no, I didn't do that. I had nothing to do with that. And so ownership, to me, the way in, the little walkway, the bridge to get ourselves there. Ownership means you were there. You are there. And something that's going on within you has something to do with what's happening. Something that's going on within you has something to do with what's happening. That's a lot, right? Gosh, we've talked about how to let go of our truths, to be excited about finding them and then letting them go. We've talked about, with my poem, what does it mean to be a paisley, which really has to do with going to the depths of all that you are, and proudly waving the flag of you in that. And now we've even talked about this idea of how to create really solid foundation in your life is to understand and practice this idea of ownership as you're there, right? Ownership because you're present. All right, let's see. I think we're on we are on this next one. So before you show this slide for 1 second, I just really want to say I spend time every month writing these 160 character messages for the Daily Dispatch, and they are free to you. Okay, now you can show it. And so they're free. So all you have to do is text the word join to 866-269-8545. I have gotten so much great feedback that they seem to say exactly what someone needs to hear on the day that it shows up. And it's been a challenge for me to sit down and kind of write these and get an idea. It's 160 characters. And here's the coolest thing, is that the software we use for this, you can write back. And so it creates an instantaneous link up with you and your growth process and me, so that I can actually have a sense of holding the space for you to do your growth work. And the part that's important, I don't know whether you have a lot of people in your life that like to talk growth with you, but to me, that's one of the biggest support pieces of staying in the game, because it's so easy to go unconscious. It's just so easy, right? Life happens and all this doing has to go on. And so this daily dispatch, even though it's a little teeny weeny thing, it is something you can do to support yourself. And I would love being invited in to your world to help you stay in your game, help you stay in the process. So, okay, that's what you do. You text join. All right. And then it comes to you free. There's no, what is that, hooks or anything like bait and switch, nothing like that. I mean, it truly is free. It's always going to be free. And I would love it if you would sign up. All right. Okay, I'm done with that slide. Let's see, where am I headed next? Oh, gosh, we are at the main topic. Okay, so we're not going to show those slides for just a second. So this main topic, I talked a little bit about it earlier with this how you miss the pivotal moments. So, a lot of times it's easier to learn when somebody shares a story that goes with what's being talked about. Well, tonight I would like you to be your own story. So before we get started, I would like you to think about, let's just say, 2 relationships in your life that you would like more. You you or you gave up on a while ago. Let's do one or the other, right? 2 relationships. And I'd like you, as I go through these 10 descriptions of moments where something else could happen besides what the norm is, I'd like you to plug in your story with these 2 people that you're going to use as the example this evening. All right. Okay. Let's just go through. So if you could show the first slide, maybe there's one here. Oh yeah, we got them all on one. Oh my gosh, I can't actually see them. All right, hold on. I'm going to make this a little bigger and draw it over so I can read it over here. All right, there we go. So number 1, and I'm going to talk in detail about these, but number 1 is remember, you're in a relationship, you're interacting, right? And you just decide to give up. The second thing is that whatever it is you wish you could talk about, you avoid or you run from it. The third thing is that you yourself would rather feel safe and secure, and the idea of being in these conversations or any conversation that disrupts that is like, no way, no way. Okay, number 4 is, you want to hold on to the status quo, like the idea that everything's good and it's fine and it's good enough and I'm happy here, right? Number 5, you're just too busy. Oh, that was a classic one. Just got so much to do. Who has time to sit down and have those conversations? Who has time to open that up? And then how's it going to go a week afterwards when it doesn't go the way I wanted it to go? Number 6, and this flows right into it, is you feel stubborn and concluded. It's not going to change. Nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not into it. Number 7, you ignore your calling, your inner calling, what really would bring fulfillment to you, what would really make you happy. Number 8, you feel bound by loyalty and getting along. Now, again, we're going to talk about all these. Just wanted you to get a sense of where we're headed here. And number 10 is your intention is actually misdirected. And it's kind of where you get yourself attached to the idea that you want something out of this, but it actually doesn't suit or support you really having the depth in relationship that you really want. Okay, back. We can move the 1 through 10. This is a downloadable also. When I talked earlier about, I'm going to move these notes here out of the way. There we go. When I talked earlier about, you can actually find a lot of resources at our page, our Expedition Self TV resources page. Okay. We're gonna dive in. I'm hoping you have your 2 relationships that you're gonna play with. All right. And what we're looking for is the idea that if you can open to this, that something's going to bubble up about, oh, this is a moment where I could have created a different conversation, or this is a spot where I went over the top of this and didn't actually tackle it. So every day you encounter so many invaluable opportunities to alter your future for the better and generate legitimate growth towards your own evolution, right? And it's not just growth, it's like personal satisfaction in relationship. But these moments are so easy to miss. And they're easy to miss because of 3 reasons. One is we rationalize our ways of being until they become so normal that we miss the window of opportunity that's offered to us to choose something different. And 2 is that our hearts have developed self-protective mechanisms and measures and tools and as a way of avoiding being at risk of getting hurt or losing something that matters to us. And then 3, we get caught up in the fodder of everyday life. So we often don't stop to consider that the entirety of the internal self, the intellect, the emotions, the being experience of the self, the spirit, our sensory, all of that, it actually dwells in your physical body. And so much of our energy goes to then managing this internal environment and then working to create a hospitable environment inside of ourselves from which we function. So, I mean, there's a lot going on in that Paisley self of yours, right? So this self-occupation is under a constant barrage as you get through life, and it takes a toll on our psyches. So for lots of us, we don't have any other choice but to find ways to protect or defend or support or even override what's happening on any day or week. So unfortunately, these coping methods, they translate to many tons of normal, which are seemingly unchangeable but harmonious relationships. And we can find ourselves succumbing, to feeling defeated or apathetic or surrendering to it's just the way it is. Like, we find ways also to just accept our lot. We just accept it the way it is when we'd really rather it be different. So because of that, we end up living more of an unconscious life, more numbed out maybe than we often realize. Boy, I can attest to that. And then we actually lower our hopes and dreams. And we often will tell ourselves it's because we weren't realistic to begin with, right? Because from this place, it seems that it just wasn't possible. So that's why we developed this top 10 list, is to help you identify, hopefully, some new moments that you can recognize when you are ensconced in normalcy and see an opportunity to make a new choice. All right, so I think it's break time, and when we come back, we will dive into number 1, you decide to give up.
Times TV.
In a world filled with constant noise and distractions, where finding meaning feels like an endless search. Introducing Daily Dispatch, your daily pathway to inner growth and self-discovery. Each day, receive a personalized self-growth prompt. Crafted by a seasoned growth expert with over 40 years of teaching personal mastery. Join thousands of professionals who have found clarity and purpose with Daily Dispatch. Start your free trial today and unlock a more meaningful life, one day at a time. Daily Dispatch. Discover your inner world. Live more consciously in every moment. Get your free trial at www.expeditionself.com/daily-dispatch.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
Okay, we're back. I'm Sam Parado, and I'm the host of Expedition Self. Tonight, we're talking about pivotal moments when you can bring more creative attention and power to the relationships in your life. I know I kind of started before a break. I just want to say something about this. The possibility of feeling so connected and so close to other human beings, it lies right beyond these moments I'm going to talk about. And even though it may seem like I have no idea how I would ever do that or how I could connect, I can tell you that the minute you say, oh, it's possible, all of a sudden support and help comes from a whole bunch of places. So I hope you'll listen through that lens. Okay, so the first one here is, wait a minute, I just lost there we go. Okay, my notes. So when you decide to give up, so this is when you become resigned to feeling defeated because you have played out every consequence in your head and it doesn't seem to be worth it. Like you imagine talking to this person, or a door has been closed on you, right? Because they seem unmovable. Maybe they've acted out in a certain way and said, I'm not talking about this. I don't want to be in the conversation. Or there's like life says, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it because this is not something you want to be in the middle of, right? That is an example of deciding to give up. And while these appear like obviously logical moments to pull out, like you're making a good decision, they equally represent a chance to regroup and recommit and search for new, more creative ways to reopen the doors or to open a door that was closed, right? There's also this idea of getting complete about something. We don't talk about events and circumstances and interactions after we've gone through them and clear it up. So this is another example. It's like, well, why go back to that? Because I'm just going to meet resistance. So the motivation is the flashlight on the self. Where's my flashlight tonight? There we go. How do I ever come without a flashlight? Flashlight on the self is I want to learn how to create relationships that provide the most depth and connection. Right? All right. Number 2, you avoid or you run. Now, I will just say, I think that we're wired a lot of times to be people that move forward and engage, or people that move backwards and don't. And so in some ways, the you avoid or run, I think, is almost kind of a way of being, right? So this is a good thing for you to think about. Feelings, they cause you to feel. And they become very overwhelming to harness and be with, right? Be within the body. So when you encounter emotions that you don't want to feel, well, your desire to escape and skedaddle, right, can be super compelling and really quite propelling, actually, right? So each time that you run away from an experience of feeling emotions in your body and digging in to understand more about what they might be telling you, it means that the conversation and the choice or the action that could have led to a new road, well, it takes off without you. Now, I am saying that we run or avoid because of emotions, but it's possible that what you get in touch with is you run or avoid because of fear, and you might not consider that an emotion, or you might run and avoid because you feel like you're protecting a space, right? That's a really common thing, is like, oh, I didn't want to create a scene, or I didn't want to cause a breakdown there because the children might be present, right? So if you're committed to like a productive and expansive movement, this, if you take advantage, like an intentional advantage of this insight, right? That you running from feelings will also have you run from conversation. It'll also have you run from the interactions that are hard because you don't want to feel your feelings, so then you don't want to feel anything that comes out of the conversation. Okay, I hope that's setting well with you and logical. Okay, ready for the next one? This is number 3. You seek safety and security. Okay, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. Human beings are designed, right? We're designed to keep ourselves safe. And I mean, I think it's in our DNA, it's in our amygdala, it's in the base of the brain, right? And so, while it kept our ancestors safe from physical harm and helped us survive, it now mostly functions, to me, as a powerful deterrent for all the actions that could allow us to experience more fulfillment and satisfaction and success. The survival thing, I think there's so much being written out there about it, is how many of us actually had some level, they describe it as trauma, but it's really a sense that we're not safe and that we don't have what we need when we're growing up in some way or at some point in our life. And then what that does is it sets in motion this kind of unconscious, constant driver to stay safe, whatever that means. And we can stay safe by being very loud and intimidating everybody else to not talk, right? Like the thousands of ways we will seek safety is really fascinating to me. So your need for safety and security, well, it's kind of a trickster for the mind, right? Because it'll almost always override this creative attention into causing a conversation that maybe you're nervous about. And it'll override the exploratory parts of you, the ones that are like curious, and I'll say, geez, how did I feel about that? And what was really going on there, when that happened, right? Because it triggers fear that instead sounds rational and believable. And I'm hoping some of you are going, oh yeah, I do that. Where your head tells you that you're being rational and appropriately cautious. And what's actually happening is it's convincing you to stay safe. Right? So when we find ourselves feeling at risk and unsafe, both emotionally and physically, we'll often say or do anything. I mean, anything, whether it's truthful and aligned with our whole selves or not, to get ourselves out of our perceived danger. So instead of seeing these evasive maneuvers for what they are, the fear of the intimidating unknown, we sprint away, rationalizing that we're doing what is smart and safe. Do you see how so much of growth work has to do with opening up an inner conversation with yourself where you hear more from other aspects of you? Because the dominant, what you believe is conscious, doer of your life, the one that's making it work for you, is so pronounced, right? That it's super easy then to kind of miss all of these underlying opportunities and patterns that go with that. All right. So we could, when we are feeling afraid, we could stand still. We could take a breath. We could attempt to get conscious. What's really going on? What am I really afraid of? How could I do this? How could I try to create a conversation with ownership, right? And we could watch the new perspective bubble up. So the only way to become safe is to actually intentionally stay in the deep end until the peril actually passes. Now think about that. That almost doesn't make sense. That the only way for me to get safe is to find a way to be unsafe with intention and consciousness. And when I talk about unsafety, I'm not talking about legitimate situations where we have physical harm or something like that. I'm talking about all of these opportunities that are really going on in our life all the time to create more connection, more fulfillment. Okay. Where are we? All right, it's 8:42. Number 4, you hold on to the status quo. All right, well, we don't like ups and downs. Now, this is much more about like what we want to experience, right? We'd rather live in this possible illusion of happy harmony. And I actually want to say this. When I say the illusion of happy harmony, to me, the gritty, work through, learn about life cannot be constantly harmonious. So like, it doesn't stay that smooth, even though, and what I'm saying is the status quo can be like, I want it to stay that smooth, right? So this is something you want to think about. And how much does status quo matter to me, right? The truth is that the quest for harmony, it doesn't actually sync up with the reality of being in a relationship, both with ourselves and each other, or the world in which we live. Now, I just want to say something about this. Ourselves. We don't tolerate disruption in ourselves very easily. I think it unsettles us, makes us feel like we can't function during the day. And so it really does start right there, right? So we tell ourselves, it's all good. Don't worry. Be happy. It's good. Well, you know what? You should be grateful for what you have, right? When everything can't be all right. I'm not saying it's bad, but it can't be all right, right? And it will cause us to miss the circumstances or the conversations that can shed light on how life really is. But what's embedded in that is the beauty and the richness and the cool mystery that is also life, right? Because we want to break into the nuance. We want to see all those little nooks and crannies inside of every moment of our lives. And the other thing is, society is quick to tell us, maybe it's not just society, but the community we live in or the community we grew up in, right? It's quick to tell us to look away from the sad, the angry, the difficult parts of life, or get over it, right? Just get over it quickly, like blow them off as a bad day or a difficult moment or something beyond our control. And of course, this maintains this veil of peace, but what it does under the surface, and it reaches into really every relationship, right, is that it can cost us really getting to be at the truth with someone. What did you really think? What really happened there? Why did you really slam the door? What were you doing when you caught up at midnight and decided to clean the whole house? So this glossing over of life's hard parts, because we want it to stay, okay, right? It's like, okay, the way it is. It costs us this opportunity to create and experience more out of life. And it costs us this insight into ourselves to actually listen and notice when things are going on that are worth paying attention to. And it also, it's like the idea of noticing when something doesn't feel okay. And it also costs us close relationships, right? Because in doing that with ourselves, it's likely we're doing it with someone else. We're saying, hey, no big deal. Just, move through, what is that phrase they always say? This too shall pass. I mean, there's so many quotes out there that are all designed to get over it, right? The one thing I do want to say is I keep talking about how this is about relationship with ourselves and others, but it also is about our capacity to self-actualize. Because the minute we operate inside of a scope within our life that is defined and not moving because you don't venture out into a new conversation, is the minute that the possibilities of how you might be in the world and all the things you might take on is the minute that starts to close. So challenges are part of life. So constructing a worldview that blocks out dissension and conflict and discord, and ultimately learning, is equivalent to erecting like a high castle wall circled by a moat with alligators, all at some level keeping life out while you're saying you want life to come in. And when our unconscious is on the defense in this way, well, we're deprived of the life-giving opportunities, right? To work through these challenges and sort out the ways and the hows of making things better. And also this piece, we become more resilient to the ups and downs. We don't have to run from the ups and downs. All right, I spent a lot of time on that one. I'm hoping that you are bringing your two relationships through this conversation and thinking about how you fit and how you connect. 5, you're just too busy. I would say I encounter this one probably most when we're talking to people about, hey, you could have this conversation, you could try that, right? We fill our lives with doing and doing and more doing and doing, right? And this busyness is a most effective deterrent from seeing that which we cannot see and that which we don't want to deal with, right? If you don't slow down long enough, I think about, in the movies when somebody's got this super fast run, like in Twilight when they ran really fast. And you think about, you run that fast by it, you don't even know it's there, right? So being overloaded with an overactive schedule, it also interferes with listening and being available to others who might offer essential insight and perspective about what's going on, right, in our relationships. See, when we stay too busy, we don't create the time or the space to recognize what's going on, right? And that essential feedback that someone else could give us, or the words that they could provide, we don't even get it. And of course, if we miss these signals, then we'll also miss the pivotal moment where you could stop and observe. You could make a left turn or a right turn. You could drop in and connect more fully, and you could respond differently, right? And I think it also leads to confrontational stuff where you actually no longer have the chance to collaborate together. Now you're just upset that one person did one thing and the other person did another, right? And you're pushing apart rather than like working to become aligned, right? And I find a lot of people are like, what happened? What happened to that relationship, right? And they never stop and say, I was just so busy. I never put any time into it. I never just sat on a couch somewhere and said, tell me everything. Let me hear it all. So you can be more prepared for these like pivotal moments if you make room in your schedule. And you make room in your schedule, not to do something or to tell somebody what to do or to be told what to do, but for this idea of sitting, plopping down in relationship, having time for reflection, and allowing the rain to pitter patter against the window while you don't have an end game, right? Because it's such a dodging mechanism that you might not, that your trickster may be at work, right? Where you just don't want to feel or face something and you don't even know it, right? So I always think that it is a great thing once a year to take a day where you do nothing. And you allow yourself to be in this nothingness, because the relationship stuff I'm talking about with others is the same with you. And if you do nothing in that day, I know you're like, are you kidding? How would you possibly do nothing? But you would hear things. You would hear how you're feeling. All right, number 6. Okay, here we go. You feel stubborn and concluded. I just want you to know this one's mine. This is my top of the list of what I do. Think of masonry block, 8 by 10 sheets of plywood, steel doors, right? All the stuff you use to build homes, buildings, right? Impossible to breach other than through an open door or window that is intentionally open, right? Even blocks out sound from room to room. Stubbornness works like those elements of construction. And I say that sheepishly because I'm so familiar with this. So being concluded, right, means that you're not open and you feel often right about your position and you have no desire to do something different, right? From that place, you can't possibly be a change agent or a catalyst. You can't facilitate new things in your life, right? And when you're feeling stubborn and concluded and righteous, it's like, who gets in? And this is a big lesson for me. To expect somebody to pound on the door and deal with my way of being stubborn to reach me was unfair. It's unfair. And of course, to me, stubbornness is woven into every single layer I have ever peeled in my growth process. But it took me a while to realize, oh, I actually am the source of my own stubbornness, right? So rigidity resulting from this kind of thinking about being stubborn is really us trying to stay one step ahead of everything so that it can't get to us, or so that we don't have to feel vulnerable or exposed. And so what comes with that is that when we bypass anything that may fundamentally alter our existence in a way that brings more life, well, we've missed that pivotal moment, right? So righteous rigidity, it disguises our effort to control the environment that supports our place on the planet. So I'm wanting you to kind of start to see some of these things inside yourself so that they don't have to run you. They don't have to get in the lead. You can actually enjoy seeing them and notice them at play. And then you can ask them to open up, right? Right? Nothing changes if nothing changes, right? But awareness is what we are actually trying to change. Okay, gosh, we're at 8:54. I'm not going to get through all these. I guess I've taken too much time on all this. So I want you to know before I do number 7, which I'll be able to get done, is I didn't get to talk about the timeline tonight. And also we didn't get to do anything around Armenta. But the next show, I'm going to do all about Armenta. I'm going to interview her. We're going to do some role playing with her relationship. And so I just want to tell you that. Okay, so I'm going to get to number 7. Which actually I'm glad we're going to get here at least. You ignore your inner calling. So underneath all that we engage in as human beings lives the concentrated essence of your capacity and your potential to be you. And somewhere within, right, I think we spend a lifetime trying to find this place. You likely know this. So you might also recognize that to have a life screams vital, right? Interesting, intrigued, fulfilled, adventurous, that you're going to need to turn the volume up so you can actually hear this inner guidance and direction more clearly. This is the dreamer in you. This is the part of you that pines for things, that longs for something, that wants. It's the place where you feel yourself get inspired because you're present to something, and it makes your heart open in that moment. So when your relationship with the core essential aspects of who you most innately are distorted or masked or foggy, well, it's easy then to grow disconnected from your most aligned path. Right? And then this translates to a heck of a lot of potential reactivity and discontent, miscommunication, and frustration, because deep down there is something you're wanting that would make life more for you, but you've lost your ability to hear it or register it, right? All of these inconvenient life moments are symptoms of ignoring your inner calling. It's as if you're looking up at a highway billboard sign, hoping to snag your attention and prompt you to ask, what's going on with me? Right? So I am really trying to describe this idea, I'm watching the time here, that your inner self wants you to listen, right? So the moment of opportunity for transformation or consciousness, it dwells at the very source of you. And if you stop reacting and listen closely enough, you'll begin to see the areas where you're operating on a path that is a little bit askew or not as central to your mission. All right. So I'm actually watching time here because we're about ready to get ourselves close to the end. So in the context of this listening piece, I can't say enough how important it is that reactivity takes you away from listening. Now, that doesn't mean being stoic and putting things on shelves and holding yourself together is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the idea that when you feel yourself wanting to react to anything, that is a moment to listen more deeply to yourself. All right. I hope that you will download the sheet for the other last 3, which is the 8, 9, and 10. And I hope that you have felt like this evening was helpful to you. You can always write me at hello@expeditionself.com. Daily dispatch, yes, please do that. Join with the phone number. I don't remember what the phone number is right now. And in these times, as we're going through learning how to close the gap and find our community again and our connectivity, I wish you lots of thoughtfulness and awareness of always bringing as much of your heart as you possibly can. All right. Have a wonderful time this week and the next week until we meet again.